Hey guys, what's up? Back with another video. Today we have a review for you guys. Today we have WWE Vengeance from 2006. As you can see right here, we got the Mick Foley, Ric Flair, Edge, Rob Van Dam, John Cena, and of course the return of D-Generation X. And of course includes a bonus disc featuring 75 minutes of Vengeance and DX extras. Ooh, interesting. Extras. So let's kick this off, shall we? We kicked off the show with an ECW One Night Stand 2006 rematch between Randy Orton and ECW's Kurt Angle. This was Kurt Angle. This was one of Kurt Angle. I think this was Kurt Angle's last pay-per-view with WWE for over 10 years, because not long after this he would be released and then go to TNA for about 10 years before coming back in 2017 for the Hall of Fame and becoming the general manager. This was a good match. I really liked this one. Really good opener with Randy Orton and Kurt Angle. Randy Orton was a great douchebag on this night. Being a cocky heel, being a cocky prick. And Kurt Angle did school him a couple of times, out wrestling him, slapping him around. That was good to see. Always good to see my keeping that spark alive with my feud with Randy Orton. I never forgive him for what he did to the Fiend. I'll never forgive you, Randy. I'll never forgive you. So yeah, it was good to see. It was good to see Kurt Angle. It was good to see Kurt Angle out, slapping Randy Orton about a little bit. Randy Orton would get the win with a little bit of help from the exposed turnbuckle and an RKO. Put down the Olympic gold medalist on this night, but it was a very solid opener, very solid stuff. As we move on to the next match, we have Umaga. We have the Samoan Bulldozer Umaga taking on poor, defenseless Eugene. This was not fair whatsoever. Why the fuck would you put this on a pay-per-view? Eugene versus Umaga. This is like 5-star clinic written all over it, man. 5-star squash, that is. This was exactly what it needed to be. It was a squash match. It went 2 minutes. Umaga squashed him. That was the end. I was more interested in what happened after the match, where basically Eugene had brought down a couple of legends to motivate him in the match. He brought down Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Doink the Clown, and of course the big giant Kamala. And after the match, Umaga destroyed Duggan, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and Doink the Clown, and then went face to face with Kamala. And I was very interested to see Umaga and Kamala, the two big giants, the two big bulldozers, lock up. But unfortunately on this night we did not see it, as Armando Alejandro Estelada, Umaga's manager, would back Umaga away, and we would see the match on Raw and Umaga would beat Kamala. But yeah, it would have been nice to see, especially seeing that we only had a squash match. It was a good squash match. I don't know really why it was on the pay-per-view, apart from to make Umaga, as a showcase of Umaga's dominance. And poor Eugene. Anyway, we move on to the next match. We have Mick Foley taking on Ric Flair. Woo! The Nature Boy. In Ric Flair's hometown of Charlotte, North Carolina. In a 2 out of 3 falls matchup. And of course, if Ric Flair's in his hometown, that means only one thing. Bad things gonna happen to Ric Flair. And of course, that usually happens when someone is in their hometown. They get either beat or humiliated or destroyed. And on this night, Ric Flair was destroyed. It was a fun match. It went exactly how it was. It went exactly how I thought it was going to do. Mick Foley wanted to out wrestle Ric Flair. Was never going to work. What are you thinking, Foley? Bang bang. What are you thinking? Foley was never going to out wrestle Ric Flair, and then of course Foley would retreat back to his hardcore roots and get disqualified in the second fall, losing 2 straight falls to Ric Flair and a thingy. And then of course he would bloody Ric Flair. He would bloody Ric Flair up with a barbed wire baseball bat, because it wouldn't be a Ric Flair match if there wasn't Ric Flair bleeding everywhere, this would continue their feud going into SummerSlam with their I Quit match. I was fine with this. It wasn't, I wasn't expecting a 5-star clinic wrestling mat classic by Foley and Flair. It was what it was, to set up another match at the more vicious match, I Quit match. So I was pretty fine with this. I was okay with this. Next match, we have the Intercontinental Championship on the line we have Shelton Benjamin defending the Intercontinental Championship against not only Johnny Nitro, but Carlito. And this match is good, pretty good. Sometimes with Carlito, it's a very hit and miss with Carlito, sometimes, especially around this era. Sometimes his matches can be really good, and sometimes they can be really, forgettable. But this one was okay. Shelton and Johnny Nitro brought their A game, and it was really good stuff. The one thing I don't ever want to hear again, and I have a feeling I probably will do if I keep reviewing these events around this time, is Melina's scream at ringside. I forgot all about it. Even though I did review ECW December to Dismember, I forgot all about Melina's scream. And boy howdy, it brought back a lot of memories. Not good ones. Anyway, Johnny Nitro would win the match. That being said, Johnny Nitro would win the match. Very good stuff. Let's move on to the next matchup. He would win the Intercontinental Championship, stealing Carlito's pin after Carlito had his finisher on Shelton. Good match. Next match, we had Rob Van Dam taking on Edge for the WWE Championship. Edge trying to bring back the WWE Championship to Raw after Rob Van Dam won it to ECW One Night Stand, defeating John Cena. So Edge was trying to regain the WWE Championship and bring it back to Raw. And also, with a little bit of an added stipulation, Edge decided to add a stipulation that if he won the WWE Championship, him and Lita would perform a live sex celebration on Raw the very next night. And that would excite very, very much Jerry Lawler. I was very worried about the King. I thought he was going to join in at some point. But unfortunately, it wasn't to be. Unfortunately, Jerry Lawler can't have his orgasm over Edge and Lita having live sex on TV. Because Rob Van Dam would retain the WWE Championship. Now I know why Jerry Lawler hates ECW. Now I know. This match was pretty good. It could have been a lot better. I feel like if it was in a different place on the card, I feel like it would have been a lot better. But it was still a good match. Rob Van Dam and Edge, they brought their A game. Edge's plan backfired where Lita tried to bring in a steel chair, and it kind of backfired as he ended up spearing himself into the chair and knocking Lita off the apron. So it backfired on Edge, and no live sex celebration for Edge and Lita. Unfortunately. Shucks. How's Jerry Lawler going to get his orgasm now? Anyhow, let's say about Jerry Lawler's orgasm the better. Let's move on to the next matchup. We have the Imposter Kane versus Kane in a match which had a very intriguing storyline. I was very intrigued about this storyline. Had potential to be something good. Unfortunately, I feel like the in-ring stuff did not click as well as I was hoping it would do. The crowd thought it was boring. I didn't think it was boring. I thought something was a bit off, but I didn't think it was boring. It's a bit like some of Kane's feuds in the past with like The Undertaker and other stuff where the story around the match is more intriguing than the actual match itself. I was very intrigued, but the match itself didn't deliver. And of course, it didn't really matter anyway, because I think the next night, WWE probably saw that it wasn't clicking, because the very next night on Raw, Kane, they just killed the storyline anyway, where Kane just unmasked the Imposter Kane and threw him out the door. And we never saw Luke Gallows ever again. Never again. That's twice Kane has killed off somebody now. Twice! He killed CM Punk at the 2014 Royal Rumble. We never saw him again. And now we killed off poor Luke Gallows. Damn it, Kane! Anyway. It was okay. The Imposter Kane did pick up the victory, which I thought was very surprising considering where it was going. But it didn't really matter at the end of the day, because they killed it off the very next night, where Kane killed the Imposter. Damn it to Kane! Ugh. Anyway, we move on to the next match, which is a Extreme Lumberjack match. We had John Cena taking on Sabu in a pretty fun Extreme Lumberjack match. My only nitpick with the match is I feel like Sabu should have been more of a threat to John Cena. I feel like the only time he was a threat to John Cena was when his Extreme Brethren of the Lumberjacks the ECW Lumberjacks distracted Cena, which allowed Sabu to get the advantage. I would have liked to see Sabu get a little bit more of a advantage on John Cena that didn't involve around the Lumberjacks distraction. So yeah, pretty fun stuff. It was still a fun match. I just wish that Sabu would have been presented more as a threat to John Cena rather than ECW Lumberjacks being more of a threat. Anyhow, it's John Cena. Good stuff, really good stuff. John Cena gets the win, of course, making Sabu tap out. And yeah, he would move on to face Rob Van Dam and going into the summer of facing RVD and Edge in some kind of capacity and going back into that WWE title picture. So yeah, anyway, that's it. And then of course, we had the main event of the evening. We had, of course, D-Generation X making their return to the pay-per-view, making their return on pay-per-view in the main event in a 5-on-2 match. It was Shawn Michaels and Triple H against all 5 members of the Spirit Squad. And it was an okay matchup. It didn't feel like a main event. I felt like it was a very, putting DX aside, I felt like it was a very odd choice as a main event, especially with the Spirit Squad. Nothing against the Spirit Squad, but I didn't feel like, it felt like a bit of a time waster a little bit, because I was like, there's no chance in hell, as Vince McMahon would say, there's no chance in hell that the Spirit Squad were going to beat DX on their return. Didn't matter if they had 5 members or 10 members or 20 members. You ain't going to beat Shawn Michaels and Triple H on their return, especially if your gimmick is your 5 male cheerleaders. Very weird stuff. I don't know why they decided to go with the Spirit Squad to be DX's first opponents. Maybe they needed someone to get embarrassed by DX. But I think it would have been a little bit more interesting if they actually had a serious tag team to go up against as their first opponents, rather than 5 male cheerleaders. Nothing against Spirit Squad, their members. But I didn't really feel that there was any threat. Once again, I didn't really feel like they were a threat, and it was the DX show, as you can see on the cover. But yeah, as I said, no one was going to beat DX on this night, so it didn't really matter who was going against them. It was a good match, but as I said, it didn't really feel like a main event of a pay-per-view. It felt like a main event or a main event of Hour 1 of Monday Night Raw or something like that. But yeah, it was what it was. Anyway, that was the event. Of course, after the match, Triple H would perform his own version of the Mr. McMahon Kiss My Ass Club, as he would induct Mitch, I think it was Mitch, one of the Spirit Squad members, into the Triple H DX Kiss My Ass Club, exposing his buttocks, which I don't really need to see ever again. A lot of buttocks on this show, and a lot of sexual innuendo on this show. Mainly by Jerry Lawler and Vince McMahon's penis pump, which that's another story for another time. A booby trap, penis pump, which DX. That was Alien Night. That's another story for another time. But yeah, that's it. That was the show, guys. It was a very interesting show. I had a lot of fun with it, as you can probably tell. I had a lot of fun with it. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. I thought it was a very interesting show. It wasn't boring. I didn't find it boring in any parts. There were just some parts of the show where, especially the last 2 matches, where I didn't really feel like the person who was going up against the main star was a threat to them. Like, they didn't feel like they were a threat. Especially in the Spirit Squad. That was a baffling choice for a main event of DX versus the Spirit Squad. I understand why they had DX as the main event, because, it's D-Generation X, one of the best factions of all time, reforming after, for the first time since the Attitude Era. I understand that, but I felt like, as I said, they could have had better opponents rather than the 5 members of the 5 male cheerleaders. But that being said, I thought it was a good show. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Tell me what you think in the comments, guys. I'm very intrigued to see what your reaction would be for this one. That's going to be it now, guys. Tell me what you think in the comments. You can leave me a like if I deserve it. And never accept a penis pump from D-Generation X. That's some sound advice as I sound off. See you guys later, and I'm out.